I just got back from watching the brand new Predator Badlands, which is the sequel to Prey and Predator Killer of Killers, and what is, I don't know if it's technically like a reboot franchise or if it's just a continuation where we're not going to mention certain entries in the film franchise. But it is the continuation of Predator with Trachtenberg. Anyways, the guy who's been doing the last couple Predator entries, and here he is with the first theatrical debut, Predator Badlands. And I gotta say right up front, this is a pretty great Predator movie. It's very different than I think some people have like a very specific vision of what the Predator should be or is. And I feel like within the narrative of this movie, they directly reference that, like they directly say like, okay, yes, the Predator is what they are traditionally, like what you saw in the first Predator movie, of this, like, it's just a monster, it's just a killer, it's like it has no humanity to it at all. Like that is still the Yautja culture, right? Like that is what they try to aspire to be. However, the protagonist of this movie being a predator, being the, a good guy, I guess, maybe not a good guy, but he's the protagonist. He's the hero of this story. He is a Yautja who was the runt of the litter. He was rejected by his clan, so he's trying to earn his place. But also it's semi revenge story, semi a scavenger hunt type story, and it's also semi a road trip buddy, not a buddy comedy, but there's some comedy, but it's more of a road trip type thing where you get to know these two characters as they journey together on their separate missions that kind of become one. And I do feel like this is where there's going to be some people out there that this is not for them. Some people just want the Predator to remain just the scary monster that doesn't have like a personality. It doesn't talk a whole lot. It doesn't actually have like, thoughts and feelings and a and a mission and like a, you know what I mean? Like some people just want the Predator to remain the crazy intimidating monster that the humans have to, try to survive. Whereas this movie's like, oh no, like they are still that, but also like they're intelligent beings. They have a culture and they can talk to each other and they have thoughts, and they're able under circumstances like this to break free from what is their culture traditionally expects of them, and that's kind of the journey that the protagonist goes through in this movie. And I thought it was handled really, really well. In fact, this movie, I need you guys to understand the full scale of what's actually happening here, because I don't think it's a spoiler to say that Weyland-Yutani synthetics are a part of this film. It's in the trailers, and so this is the joining once again of the Predator and the Aliens franchise. Okay, and I feel like this is a great introduction point on several fronts for mainstream audiences to know what the Yautja Predator culture is, what their code is exactly. Like, this is their home planet, this is how their clans kind of treat each other. They, this is a very warrior culture, this is what they're all about, right? And also, yes, to introduce audiences again and be like, hey, by the way, Weyland-Yutani, the company from the Alien movies, this is all very much within the same universe. These things exist together in the same universe. Because, while me and you watching this might know that very plainly, right? Your mainstream audiences probably don't know that or don't remember that, because you got to think, your general audience member, the last time they saw these two franchises interact was in the early 2000s. And they probably forgot that those movies even exist, the Alien versus Predator movies, And besides that, those things are kind of like wiped from the canon anyways. So it's like, it would be very understandable if a lot of them don't even remember that, like, oh, that's right, the Predator and the Alien franchise are like connected in that way. And I feel like they did a great job of handling that here, because they both establish that, like for example, the Weyland-Yutani synthetics, they know what a Yautja is already. they're not like discovering these for the first time. Like they're very well aware of what the Yautja is and their culture, and they've studied them before, right? Which then makes sense because, like, well, yeah, the predators have been coming to Earth over the centuries, so Weyland Yutani has come across them at some point, you know. So like that totally makes sense, you know. So like from the get-go, this is a pretty established connection in this movie, right? But also, this movie, while it has that entire plot line of the Weyland Yutani synthetics on this one world, it's still very self-contained. You know, it doesn't like, you know, it does not like end off on some kind of cliffhanger where and then a xenomorph shows up and cut the credits, you know, or something like that. You know, like they don't end it in such a way that like, oh, we're clearly building to several sequels, like this is just a lead up to those things. Like, while I'm sure that is what they have planned, this is definitely still a self-contained story that you can watch on its own, and you don't feel like oh, they're just doing this so they can make 5 more movies and try to make a bunch of money. Like, no, it just feels like they had an idea for an isolated story that's just about this one Yautja who's on a revenge quest slash hunt quest, right? He happens to come across some synthetics who, you know, and he befriends. He's got his own little crew and he makes his own little family. And by the end of it, you kind of have like a, you know, I guess Guardians of the Galaxy would be like the most apt. Like, you have like this little team, this little unit that is like unconventional, but you know, they end up coming together in their own family, and you actually care about the you know, you have him, you have the synthetic, and you even have like a little alien partner who there's a little bit of a twist there that it turns out like what that is, but you do have like a cute little alien partner. And you know, and again, I feel like this is where there's going to be certain crowds that reject all this. You know, I think there's going to be certain people who, again, they just want the Yautja to just be scary monster that is intimidating, and that's all it is. You know, the idea that they could form a family with a synthetic and a cute little alien like that is something that they're like, no, that's not what my predator would do, you know. And again, that's part of the actual narrative here, so I don't feel like that's like erasing what the predators are. Like, this is very specifically this one guy, you know. Like the other Yautja are not gonna form connections like this. Like, they're very much steeped in the culture. He is the reject of the group, you know. Anyways, sorry, little spoilers there. But yeah, overall, like, I feel like this just did an amazing job of establishing that where the franchise could go, you know, these two franchises joining together. Like your general audience now knows, after watching this, they're gonna be like, okay, Predator and Alien are in the same universe, and this on its own could have sequels specifically from like this, you know, self-contained stories. There's directions you can go with these characters, but also on a larger scale, now that you've established these are in the same universe, you could have other Predators fight xenomorphs somewhere else, completely unrelated to these specific characters, right? Because really all you did was establish for the mainstream that, like, hey, this is all one thing, you know. Like, we all just finished watching Alien Earth, right? And then we all just watched Killer of Killers, and now we're watching this, and we can be like, okay, so Alien Earth happened here, and then this happened here. You know, and it all kind of meshes together really well when you put it like that, right? Like, you might have a little bit of clashing of tones. You know, I feel like Dan Trachtenberg, I'm going to get his name right, Trachtenberg. Anyways, I feel like he plays a lot more like he's playing with action figures, you know? Like, it reminds me of Dave Filoni a lot in the way of like, hey, this is cool. It looks cool, right? Like, haven't you ever wanted to see Predator fight one of the loading things from Aliens, right? Like, one of the loading mech droids. Haven't you wanted to see a Predator fight that thing, like a giant version of it? Like that's the kind of like action figure type, like let's make these things smash into each other. like that's kind of what it feels like. Whereas, you know, the Alien version of things, like Alien Romulus and Alien Earth, tends to be a lot more horror centric, a lot more like sci-fi cerebral horror kind of thing. And I think that it's cool that we can have an interconnected universe where those two vibes are both interacting, right? Like that's, I don't know, I think that's pretty cool. So I'm gonna get into a little bit more spoilers here, but just overall, I had a good time with this. It is a self-contained sci-fi action movie, and it leaves the window open without feeling like, oh, this is incomplete story. You basically have to go hope that there's sequels now. Like, it doesn't feel that way, you know. It feels like you can just watch this one movie, you know, which I got to give high praise, because I feel like the temptation, I can't imagine the temptation to like show an image of a xenomorph, or have someone say the word xenomorph, or something. Like, I can only imagine someone in the studio was like, oh, but can't we just show like a xenomorph for like a second at the very like maybe a post-credit scene or something. Like I can only imagine that there was some studio head that was begging them to do that, and then they held back. They didn't do that. You know, they felt like the fact that we have the company in there is enough to like get the point across, you know, without having to full on like just like make some kind of promise that we're doing another AVP next or something, you know. So anyways, there you go. So I'm going to get into a little bit of spoilers here. So spoiler section, here we go. All right. So like I said, very self-contained story. The plot is simple, so there's not really a ton that you can spoil. You know, they end up, the big monster that we're chasing this entire movie, we end up befriending that monster and fighting against Weyland Yutani in their big mech. So that's kind of a cool twist, you know, because the entire movie you're like, oh, what is this big monster? What is this big monster? You know, and it does end up being like a cool monster. It has like Wolverine healing factor type thing, right? Which is why it's so impossible to kill. And the cute alien partner that we have in this movie, that I'm sure is gonna bother people, that there's a cute alien, like, oh, was this Grogu or something? That turns out to be the offspring of the giant monster. And so by the end of the movie, like near the ending credits here, it's already gotten larger, and it's become like, you know, so maybe next time we see these characters, it has become a full-grown version of this giant intimidating monster, you know, which is kind of a cool idea, that like next time he just has a pet giant monster like this. And he does end up getting revenge on his own father, because his father, and I think that's when I said it was like, oh, part of the narrative, that like, yeah, those monstrous no nonsense predators, like that's the normal predator. Like that was his father, because his father was like, hey, you're small, you're weak, I ordered your brother to kill you and he didn't do it, so I killed your brother, and now I'm gonna have to kill you because you're supposed to have been dead already, because you're too small and you're weak, and like, what is this, you made friends or something? I'm gonna kill you now. So he ends up having to kill his own father, you know, as revenge for killing his brother. So it, like, I do appreciate that, like, you know, they're not like pretending as if, oh yeah, the predators were just misunderstood. It's like, no, it's just this one guy. Like a normal predator is still the one that Arnold fought against in the original movie, right? So I thought that was cool. And yeah, it basically just leaves off with another ship is showing up after he's killed his father, and he's like, oh, it's my mother, right? And then so like it leads off with the opening for a sequel to his story, but it doesn't like promise any more from Weyland Yutani or xenomorphs or anything larger than that. They kind of just let that be what it is, right? So again, I appreciate that. I think that was, you know, it took a lot of restraint to do that, you know. So that was pretty cool. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, there's not a lot of stuff to spoil. There's not a lot of, you know, you can sit here and speculate about like what potential sequels and spin-offs could be. But I guess my main hope now that we've established, like, you know, for your general audiences, now that we've established like, hey, Predator and Aliens, same universe, and by the way, here's what the Yautja culture is, here's what this clan looks like. I'm hoping from this point on, like for the next, whatever the next entry is going to be, I'm hoping that we can start to develop some like overarching story connection, as in like okay, is there gonna be something that leads to like there was no real connection to Killer of Killers, right? Like you watch that movie and you watch like they have this big gladiator thing at the end, and you see some of those people like escape in a ship, and you don't know what ends up happening to those characters, and then they have a bunch of other characters that are like frozen in these pods. Like we don't see any of that, or at least I didn't see any of that, unless it was like a background Easter egg or something. Like it's not part of this story in any kind of way. So I'm kind of interested to see like which ideas from where are going to end up colliding. Like are we going to see some characters from here and then some characters from Killer of Killers? And then what about some of the stuff that was established, like, I don't know, in Alien Earth or whatever the next Alien project is? Like, are we going to see any of that kind of mesh with this stuff? Because, you know, I would hope to see an Alien movie that maybe drops some more hints towards the Predator side of things. And then, you know, then we can start to, like, tie things together in a way. So I don't know. I'm curious to see where that's going to go. I guess my final point here, my final little idea was that, so in Alien Earth, they have a crew of Weyland-Yutani that has been out there for, what did they say, 60 something years, and they've gone to several planets and they've collected all these different alien species, and then that ship crashes on Earth, and that is where the plot of the show begins. So in this one, we have the synthetics on this planet, and their goal was to just capture this really big, you know, invincible alien, and then take that back home. Like that was their job in this movie. That's why they were there. They're hunting the same thing that the Yautja was hunting. So I'm curious now, like, was this part of that same mission? Like how much further in the future or past does this take place? Like I don't think at any point we got an indication of what year it is on planet Earth, right? Like I don't know if, does this take place after Alien Romulus? Does this take place after Aliens? You know, like, or is this before some of that? Like when is this happening? Because we know at the very least Weyland-Yutani has synthetics that they sent out on missions to go capture alien species. Like that's all we know, and that's also what they were doing in Alien Earth. So I'm like, so, you know, is this part of that same series of missions? Like was this just a different crew that they sent to a different part of the universe to, like, hey, all right, you guys go left and we'll go right, just collect aliens and bring them back, and that's our plan here. So I'm very curious as to like what's happening there, because that is what they were doing, and that's like the same thing they were doing there. So I don't know, I'm just curious how much of a connection was that intentionally done, because they knew, of course they knew that Alien Earth was coming out before this movie came out. So I imagine at least on some level they're like, yeah, that's a thing Weyland-Yutani does. So anyways, that's Predator Badlands. It's an enjoyable action sci-fi thing that takes some risks with the Predator franchise. It's doing some things that, you know, I think there's going to be some people who just want him to be a monster. They're not going to love this as much, but I think overall, I think people who are looking for this franchise to actually expand and actually go somewhere and actually have a future, they're going to be really happy with this. Because let's be clear here, before Dan came along, you know, before Prey came out, the Predator franchise was dead. The Predator franchise was going nowhere. We had I don't even remember his name. We had the guy who did Iron Man 3. He made, was it Predators or The Predator? I don't remember. He made one of those, and it was so bad, so dumb and bad, that like the franchise was gone, guys. Like that came out like in what, 2015, 2016? Like there was no more Predator movies. And then they made Prey, and now like we have life in this franchise again. So while you might see some people out there like decrying this movie, maybe just because it's Disney and they're trying to be political or something. I don't know. But like, make no mistake, if someone's trying to tell you that like, oh, things were better before these new movies came out, they're lying. This franchise was dead. It was not better before. There was no before. like this thing was on like death's row. Like it was like the way that the Terminator franchise is now, where there's like no Terminator movies and there's no Terminator projects because they keep failing to like start up anything. That's where Predator was. So the fact that we're now on the third entry of these things and we're trying to build some connective tissue to aliens and we're trying to make this a thing, like, we're doing good, guys. We're doing really good. So yeah, Predator Badlands. I really enjoyed this one. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys later.